Hello. Hello, sister.
Hello, 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 hello. So good to be with
Hello,
you.
everyone. So good. We are coming in
Um,
today to close out a really potent, powerful, important series that we just had with you all. We introduced panel, our panel style for the first time. So please let us know how you enjoyed that. Give us all the feedback. Give us all the feedback.
mhm.
Thank you to our guests, to Michelle, Nareda, Kendra, and Melissa for coming in and couch styling it with us around the fire, if you will, to open up a lot of this around the wounding that happens, the unspoken words, our, evolution into how these wounds that happen between women run so deep and so far in the past, and then what are we doing about it, and our revolution into and how we move forward every day. So I had so much fun. My heart was so opened by this. I know yours were it was because we've been talking about this for a while. So
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it was definitely a big heart opener, um, for sure. And, it really, at least I hope, it really brought to the forefront how important it is that we're having these conversations publicly and that we're having them across differences of generation, background, race, ethnicity, gender, like all abilities, every difference that there could possibly be. It's so important to be having these conversations because I'm sure you noticed, but there was a through line. Like, no matter who that woman was who was speaking, we could all relate to her challenges, her trauma, her struggle, her pain, and her curiosity of how do we do this differently? Like, how do we move forward? I felt like it was just so relatable. And I know you and I haven't talked about this in particular, but I've gotten personal messages from women I haven't spoken to in, oh gosh, many, many years and saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were on a podcast and this and the other. I just happened to catch this. And yeah, it made me really look at the beliefs I hold about sisterhood with my blood and flesh sisters. And yes, as I say, with family by choice. And that felt really good to hear that people are just stilling themselves, taking the
yeah,
pause to go, how do I do this intentionally? How do I become a consciously aware, intentional sister? And where are my safe places to find that? And how do I make myself a safe place for sisterhood and being willing to go? Yep, that was me. I wasn't always safe. In that situation, I wasn't safe. And here's what that looked like so that people could connect and understand without blame, shame, and guilt. It's like
yeah,
this is the programming, it's the conditioning, and we get to make different choices. So yeah, for me, a big heart opener. And from what I can tell from the women who have reached out, a catalyst for conversations of change.
yeah. And I think we've heard that from the women that chose to share their voice and their stories on our panels too, of like, oh, okay, okay. The
Yeah.
bridge gets to happen and it starts with us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off the rail for like a hot moment because I didn't message you on this, but
Okay.
I'm certain that you could feel this. Stacy and I are evoking the right word? We are embarking on a 8-month journey. Like it's going to be a deep, wild, expansive ride with our own personal selves. And inside of this work, it is a deeper connection that we get to have with the
Mm.
work that we both are licensed in, which is Ishtara. And so for a moment, y'all hang with us because I just am going to share some mythology. So if this is not your cup of tea, cool. Like hit that 10-second forward button. Totally fine. Just move it forward. Because did you catch how um well now let's see, whenever this is airing, so like a month ago or so, during the spring equinox is Ishar's birthday.
Mhm.
And Ishar, who went down through all of the gates, I wasn't until we had our first initial ceremony together that I realized it was her sister that was in the depths at the bottom of the cave, if you will, in the underworld. And
Okay.
here Ishtar goes through every single gate, loses a part of herself, her adornments, her clothing, her powers, like literally at the bottom. And Melissa did send me a little side message, talk about sister wounds.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is even in the mythology. Like it's literally been everywhere of this just like peppering in of
Wait, you know what I mean?
it's women doing these things to women. And I have no idea what that or will spark in you because we haven't talked about it yet. But I was just like,
Affecta.
of course. And I know, and I've known that story. Um, but I didn't hear it in that tone
Yeah.
until we did this series.
Yeah. I feel like that's such a great thing to call forward because this whole sister story, you see it in scripture, you see it in ancient scripture, you see it in different mythologies, you see it cross culturally. I mean, you see it over and over and over. And one of the things that always strikes me as I think about the story of this, whether it's this one or any other one that is out there, um, I always was questioning, like, how does she get to the depths? Like, who was there with her when she was at the depths? Because if she
Mm,
was already there, what did she go through? Like, what were the things that she was wounding in herself and that she felt the wounds of? And yeah, I just was always curious. I mean, yes, about Ishtar or Inanna or whoever, it is for the mythology, but the other sister, like I was always curious about her. Like, who is she? What's the
mm,
darkness that she was carrying? And even in the depths of like all of it that was going on, like there was still this calling of sisterhood. Like, meet me in the depths. Meet me here. I'm going to be here with you. And because you allow yourself to be that open, that stripped naked, that raw, and have a perception of separation from all of the things you knew and who you are, because you're willing to do that, watch how quickly you can rise. Watch how glorious your rise will be. Watch how adorned your whole life becomes. Like, that just to me was so fascinating. Yes, the whole story of all of it, but that other sister, yeah,
mm,
that was always
yeah,
something I thought about going, she's not the one who gets the popularity in the mythology or in any of the ancient writings. She's not the one who gets any kind of shine. Like, let's share her story. She's
she's
critical
just
to the
in
story.
the underworld. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're not probably doing justice to this story, but you can use Google. And if you are interested, go
Yeah.
search on the
Yeah.
story of Ishtar, Inanna, Isis, the journey
Yeah.
down into the underworld.
Yeah. It's an interesting story for sure. And even if you're not interested in like mythology or anything like that, that's fine. You don't have to go do a ton of research, but just knowing that there are these two sisters and there are these deep, deep underworld wounds that got to be healed together. Like, they had to be healed in the presence of each other. That's really the whole point
Mm,
of it. It's a healing in the presence of relationship, despite the sense or perception of separation. You heal in the presence with
you
someone
know,
in relationship.
I just had this like Um, I don't I don't wonder, but this thought just came in, and so I will share it of like, damn, where and how, like, what would our lives look like if we didn't say, mainly you, say yes to open your heart when you did not know me and I was in a like
Amen.
real time of like I had no one to go to. I'm just getting really emotional. I um I didn't
Amen.
feel like I had anyone to talk to. And
Wow.
you know
Yeah.
me, you know me, like, I don't know if you, I mean, I know you know your neighbors, but like you knew me to the extent of like the woman at the street across from you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just a curious thing coming in of like, oh man, that's interesting where we could have been if your heart wouldn't have been like, I'm gonna meet this woman. She is like, I was just not in a great place because I was in an emotionally abusive relationship, which was super
Yeah.
manipulative, super,
Yeah.
gaslighting myself. And that just came in. So I am so grateful
Mm.
for you to sit in the dark. That was honestly
Mm.
like our initial meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. That was like the initiation of us. And I thank you for that. And I love that memory. As painful as the experience was, like I love that memories because I remember where I was, what I was doing
Oh, I
when I
remember.
heard and I was like, oh, oh, okay. And I remember being you in a couple of relationships and going, oh, I know that. I know that path and I know what's on the other side of it. And wow, what if you would not have opened your heart? What if you would have said, hey, loner, we do everything on our own. We've gotten through other things. We'll get through this too, and that's fine. And you wouldn't have shared. Like, who knows? Because for me, that was the tipping point and it changed everything. It was just like, okay, we get to bypass years of time. We get to bypass a multitude of experiences to build that level of trust. Like we just get to choose trust. And of course, then finding out later what you had experienced a close sisterhood and to allow yourself to be that vulnerable, to open up to someone you kind of sort of knew. That took a lot of courage. That took a lot of courage. And a lot of us don't ask for the support we need because of the wounding, because we got done so dirty
Mhm.
by some sisters. And it hurts. Like it cuts to the bone. Like it hurts. And so, yeah, it would make sense that you would bottle that up like, I trusted before. And these were women like, I knew. I'm not going to do that. But this person, I'm just getting to know. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Everything could have been different. And I fully believe, for such a time as this, that we were both called to open ourselves. Just call, like just open. This may not even be a conscious choice, maybe partially conscious, but there's something calling us to be open.
Yeah.
And that for me, yeah, that's huge and that's big. It's not something that I just go around doing. And I know it's not something you just
Oh,
go
we
around
know.
doing.
I will also specifically specifically
We don't
remember
do that.
Salt Lake City. I'm driving mountains and I'm pulling up to the stop light and we begin the conversation of the light switch, the on and off,
Uh,
you know?
yeah.
And and that's also I think another place where we've really stretched each other to
Mm-hmm.
like think about, you know, just a different lens of like, okay, I don't need to turn the light off so quickly on this particular here. We're talking about sister wounds on this woman.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
let me
Yes.
just,
Yeah.
maybe she had some stuff going on in her day. She was like literally in the swamps and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I
Mhm.
remember that conversation too.
I remember
We've
sitting
had
in the
lots
car
of
having that
conversations.
conversation. I promise you that because we've had those conversations and the stretching that comes with that, albeit very uncomfortable, I am proud to now be the owner of a dimmer instead of an
Ooh,
on
I
off.
do like a good dimmer though.
A dimmer is good,
I
right?
love a
Because
good
it
dimmer.
also gives you the option to turn it back up when you desire. I'm like,
Let's
oh,
talk
that's
about what kind of
happening.
switch it is though.
Turn it
Is it a
down.
rocker switch or is it the like normal light switch? Because I'm a rocker switch. I like the ease, it's softer.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm an old school knob turn one. Like
Oh,
I want to have
oh, mm-hmm.
this level intensity. Okay, dial it back
Do
down.
they make
Like I'm
those?
an old school knob. I
Do
have
we
no
still have?
idea.
I had one. I had one in the
Or
nest, but I had
there's
to take it
one
out. It wasn't
you
working.
did.
It wasn't
Oh
working.
well,
It was no
see,
longer dimming.
see, see.
It needed some work.
There are some times where you have to go on off. There are some
This is
times.
true.
There
This
are
is
some
true.
times. But for
Totally.
the most part, can we start with the dimmer? Like, yeah, old
Yeah.
school knob or the one that starts at the bottom, it's off, and then you slide it up and slide it
Yeah.
down. Like, could we do that? Because wouldn't I want someone to do that for me? Like to hold me higher than maybe I even hold myself, to see more in me than I can even see, and to be able to say, oh, she's doing some stuff over there. I'm not going to really internalize this. It's personal. So, yes, I'm going to personalize it and I'm going to feel what I feel about it, but I won't internalize it so much that I shut that person out of my life. If this is not somebody I really know or care about, it's somebody at the Target checkout line who I'm never going to see again. Okay, maybe that's different. But if we're going to travel in similar circles, don't I get to put her on the dimmer? And doesn't she get to put me on the dimmer? We are not saying that sisterhood means best friendship at
Mm.
all. There are lots of sisters that I've collected who I'm never going to be best friends with. And we're okay with that. We're totally okay with that. I may not like who you're showing up to be. I may be irritated by something that's going on. But from the place of sisterhood, don't I get to see that, acknowledge it, deal with my own stuff about it, and then decide how much space or distance I want between us? And in my sovereignty of choice, I do get to decide how much space and distance I want between us. So that does make me feel a whole lot safer and better knowing nobody's going to force me to be in relationship with them. I'm not going to force anyone to be in relationship with me. But for the bigger call of sisterhood among all women, can I show up and be a safe sister, even in this, when I'm hurt, when I'm pissed off, when I'm irritated? Can I still show up in sisterhood, like the ideal of sisterhood, not humanity's sisterhood, but the ideal
That might
version? So,
be,
yeah.
that's like a good little prompt though. I mean, I'm like even thinking for me, I'm like, well, what does sisterhood mean? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
what is the meaning of sisterhood?
Now I've had to, and I'm sure I will continue, I've had to, because there's layers to this, right? You got to keep redefining what it is,
Totally.
because it should evolve. I believe it should
Yeah.
evolve.
I
Some
mean, we would
basic
hope
tenets will always be there, but
as the
yeah, it would
consciousness
evolve.
raises, then we get to expand the sisterhood place.
Hmm. Hmm. I know there's a lot of lopsided sisterhood definitions where women say, oh, sisterhood is about me being there for her, me giving, me giving, me giving. And what they're really describing is self sacrificing. Like, this is not reciprocity. And it doesn't have to be quid pro quo, even Stevens, like, I do something for you, you do something for me. That's not what I'm talking about. But we also know that even in sisterhood, there has to be a give and take. It can't just be take, take, take. And it can't just be give, give, give. But we get to decide what that looks like. What is the healthy version of that? And there, yeah, accepting that there are going to be times, periods of time, maybe long ones, where one person is giving more, one person is holding more, one person is receiving more. We get to be okay with that, as long, obviously, as long as it's not emotionally manipulative and like all these things. But we get to be
Yeah.
okay with that. It doesn't have to be equal all the time. And I think that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
misconception about sisterhood. Or
Yeah.
at least
It's
I hear
having
women say that.
well, it's having me think of I think this was with Melissa and Kendra, but I might be getting the I might be getting the panels mixed up. Is I think it was I used that a dear sister gave to me, the like circle analogy, and I think we put it into the thinking of a tree and all
My name,
um the what
the
do they
different
call them? The
rings in the
rings.
trunk.
The
Hmm.
rings of the tree. And like that's just a reminder, if y'all haven't listened to all this entire series yet, it's a really good part that we talk about rings on the tree. And like some of your groups of sisters are going to be right in the middle, the core. Some might be on that outside edge. I think that's also, what Stacy's talking about here. And what we're talking about with the light switch is, can you just open your heart enough? Another key point that I did just want to um touch on for a moment, I think that's really powerful, was in the very beginning, with Nareda opening up so deeply around, it like took
Yeah.
her 3 years, I think, 3 years to
Yeah.
finally settle in and feel safe and
Yes.
safe inside this group of women that was predominantly wrapped in skin that is white. And so I just am like, if you're listening to this, today, it's almost this call, this awareness, this piece to open your heart even wider and broader. I think to being the safe space. And I'm speaking
Yeah.
for women that are, white, to be in a way in which you're going to get to discover on your own. This is
Yeah.
not something Stacy and I can sit here.
True.
I can't tell you how to open the heart up to do that in a way. It's going to be something, but so the perspective and the lens now can come out wider of like, wow, it can take a while to land and feel safe. And we've had these conversations a lot.
Yeah, I remember that moment. It touched my heart so tenderly. Like, oh wow, yeah. 3 years of being with these women, and not like being with them once or twice a year, but like being with them
This
in
isn't like
community.
business meetings.
Uh, this is a sisterhood of
Yeah.
mothers that you're in. Yeah, I remember that. And also what came up then and what's coming up for me now, that I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't bring up is when, I mean, as people would say, there is an elephant in the room that I know we didn't go deep into in our series, um, but it is very real when we're talking about women who come from different backgrounds, cultures, races, ethnicities. And because I'm a whole lot of time in my adult life, especially in corporate circles and all of that, I am the only one or one of a few. Yeah. There was just a lot that was coming up in that moment as I was listening to you and listening to Rada's story at the time around being truthful and honest about how we get to start and like what's very real, the real lived experience of the other person. And now that allyship is popular and all of that, one of the trainings we used to do is like, yeah, ask someone. This was right in the wake of George Floyd. It's like, well, how do I be an ally? How do I show up? It's like, okay, you don't come in and take over and say, oh, I know how to solve the problem. And so let me go do it. Oh, all the things, right? But here's the reality for a whole lot of Black women, and I'm generalizing, for a whole lot of Black women, we have seen throughout history the betrayal of white women, and it hurts. And if there's not this acknowledgement that, hey, wait a minute, you were fighting for equal rights for women and you didn't include me. I wasn't part of the suffrage movement. you didn't make sure that I was protected and cared for. It was like, it was a whole different thing. And I'm not saying every white woman, I'm just saying these are generalizations. And so, in different social and political movements throughout history, it's like Black women, Latinas, Asian women will come to the movement like, yes, let's do this. And when the movement is about things that center the Black experience or any other experiences, there are a lot of feelings of, hey, well, where are you? Where are you in this movement that is very specific to my needs or the needs of people who look like me? Where are you in that? Again, not every white woman, not. But in general, I know these are some of the sentiments and feelings that are there. So, of course, there are protectors and guards that may be up. And being on the other side of it, wrapped in white skin, you may not understand. Like, hey, I'm being really nice to this woman. Let's go to lunch. Let's do this. Let's have coffee. And it's like, okay, I'm good. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. How do we bridge that gap? Because it's not it's not a gap that bridges itself. Like we just know this. If it was, it would have been done. Like way during captivity, enslavement. Like it would have been done then. Everything would have been a little bit different. But it's a conscious choice for us to step into that discomfort. I have friends who I know, like, yeah, they're just not going to be open at a deep level. They're just not on both sides, all sides, I should say. How do we decide that, you know what? I do want to be the bridge. Yes, it may take extra effort. Yes, it might mean more work to break down layers of perceptions and misunderstandings. And yeah, but I'm going to choose to do that because I want to operate in the highest frequency of love. I want to bridge gaps. We are in a time where people are more open to that now. But if we don't talk about the elephant in the room, then we're going to have these beautiful conversations among people, preaching to the choir kind of people who are in that space and want to do the work. And that's great. What about those who don't? What about the Black woman sitting in her cube or in her office or in her home? And it's like, yeah, I'm good. Like, no new friends. Like, we good. I don't do that. What about the white woman who's sitting there saying, I want to, but like, I don't even know how. And I'm scared I'm going to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. And you might say the wrong thing. You might do the wrong thing. That
I
is
don't,
real.
I think you will. I think you can remove the
Absolutely.
might. Like, you're going to say some
I only
wrong things.
might because
I
I have
know.
sister friends
I'm
who are less
going to say,
melanated
I'm
and
going to say,
they haven't made the mistakes or the missteps, I should say.
that's true. That's
Um,
true.
but I mean, yeah, so you might, the propensity is there to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
the misstep for sure. Like how do we step in courage and say, I'm going to do this? And that doesn't mean go out and make some fake friends like, oh, I got a Black friend, oh, I got a Latina friend, oh, I'm not saying that. But I keep going back to what you brought up with Narita's story. How could the women who were there have shown up in an even greater depth of sisterhood, awareness of what her experience might be like, being the only one or one of a few? I'm not saying they didn't, but what if they did something at a deeper level? Would that have shifted things for Narita in maybe the first couple of months versus 3 years? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What if Narita, I hope she doesn't mind us talking about her, dear sister, we love you. But what if Narita, or insert yourself as Narita in that kind of situation, whomever it may be, she would have decided, I'm just gonna trust. I'm gonna open. I'm just gonna put myself in that vulnerable situation, knowing I might get hurt, I might get disappointed. Ugh. It's icky. It's messy. It just is. But what
Yeah.
if? And I don't know. I'm not saying that that's the answer. Like, oh, less melanated sisters show up and do more. Oh, more melanated sisters, I'm not, there is no cookie cutter way of doing this. There is no blanket answer for any of it. But the call, I guess, I'm making, and I know you feel the same, Jill, the call I'm making is, what if we consciously just took a moment and paused, and instead of operating out of a habitual way of being, we said, how could I be the bridge here? How can I be the bridge? And if that person gives me clear indication that I don't need a bridge, I don't want a bridge, can we put her on the dimmer instead of the light switch off? Can we
Yeah.
just say, she's not in that place right now? Okay. I bless her. I wish her well. And I know a lot of people saying that's exactly what I do. And that's why I know I keep it here. I get that. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
Yeah.
consciously putting forth the effort. And people will say, well, what do you get from that? Why? Why would I do that? That's
Well,
when we
that's a
go back
whole
to that
other
question. What
that's a
is
whole other
sisterhood then? Do you really want to be in sisterhood?
Yeah.
Sisterhood is inclusive. It's not just these people or these people. Those are
It's
pockets of
also
sisterhood.
I think it's also following just really being able to trust your intuition. So
Oh,
no
yeah.
matter
Yeah.
what your
Yeah.
skin looks
Yeah.
like, can you, knowing you might be one of the few, because Stacey, I've witnessed you do this again and again. I'm there. I'm supposed to be there. This is okay. It's a yes in my body. And you walk through it anyways. Whereas if you would stay in your headspace, I don't know that you would have, but you could have very easily said, no, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to be the only again.
Yeah.
So
Especially after leaving corporate, where then it
right,
is a real choice
right.
as to the circles I allow myself to be in.
So
But
I'm
yeah.
saying, like,
Phew.
I acknowledge your courage. I've said this to you. I'll say
Mhm.
it openly again and again to show up in spaces where you are the one or one of two. And the call out that I will share, if you are wrapped in white skin, as am I, to acknowledge some courage right away. Like, don't let it take months. The first circle, the first meetup, the first networking thing, y'all scan in the room. You are scanning the room. You know who's there. You are doing an energy check, or if you want to be woo woo, or you're just like, you're getting first impressions. This is a human, natural psychology thing that we do.
Yeah.
So, can we raise our level of awareness one notch higher and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to just, and you don't have to go up and say it to the woman. She will feel
Right.
it. She will
Right.
feel that you are
Right.
holding, like, I see you. Like, you're, well, let's not be, you have such courage for me. It's not what I'm saying.
Woman, if I
It's
told you
not what
how
I'm
many
saying.
times I have been in places where that kind of stuff is happening, it's like, what is
Oh,
really going on right now?
God.
Like, I am not a
No.
circus animal that you're
You
here to
need to
come and see,
stop.
or an
I
animal in the
will.
zoo. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's weird. And like, that's just freaky. Like, don't, yeah. And I don't speak for all Black women, but for this Black woman, yeah, don't run up to me. Like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. That must be something to be the only African American woman in the place. Oh my God. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. And it sounds ludicrous, and I'm saying it in jest, but the reality is, I can't tell you how many times that has happened at work, at networking events, at conferences, at sister circles, at all of this. Or on the other side of it, just, I'm here for you. I am so sorry for your plight. Don't, I don't.
Mm.
It's for this Black woman. Like, don't for me. Feel it out. Like, be a regular human. You just
Can
like,
you
could you just
just
be a regular
be,
human?
just,
Like, just be a
that'd be
cool
good.
chick. Be a woman. Just, yeah.
Just be
And
you. Just,
see me, and don't give me that, oh, I'm so glad we're close now. I want you to know I don't see color, or my grandchild or my sister's boyfriend is like, don't know, don't care to know that upon first meeting you. That's not important, because I'm not going to be like, oh, you know what, my aunt's white or my uncle married. Yeah, for what? No. But yes, see color, see who I am, Don't make assumptions about who I am. Yeah. Acknowledge that because there are visible differences, that my lived experiences are going to be different than yours. They just are. That's going to be true woman to woman, no matter who you are, but especially
Throughout.
under the layers of differences. Yeah, I am going to have some different lived experiences. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I'm just not going to see the world in the way that you do,
Yeah.
perhaps.
And within those differences, can we all just keep opening our hearts a little more? Because there is commonality within all the different layers, which
Yes.
we wouldn't have uncovered. I wouldn't have known your past relationships if I wouldn't have. And it could have been vice versa. This is just how it flowed in
Yeah.
our relationship. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that's a good way to close this really powerful series is let's all open our hearts a little more and be truthful in our awarenesses.
Yeah.
Truth.
Truthful in our
Heightened
awarenesses.
awarenesses. Yeah.
Yeah. Heightened,
This could be
heightened
this could be a
awareness
this
is
could be a
big.
whole other. Maybe we'll do a whole this might be another episode. Stay tuned
You never know.
because we could keep going. But what a great, I mean, obviously love spending time with you, but
Likewise.
it was very delicious to have this panel. I'm sure we'll
Ah.
be bringing a panel back. We don't know when. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but thank y'all for riding along with this series and let us know. Keep sending your messages, your comments, and we so appreciate you.
We do. And share some love in the comments for our guests that we did bring on this in the series. It takes courage to open up so vulnerably to an audience you're not familiar with and you don't know. So if something resonated with you from Melissa, from Kendra, from Michelle, from Nareda, yeah, drop them some love in our comments. I know it would be much appreciated from them. And of course, and we've got all the stuff in the show notes of how you can reach out to them directly. Because if you really fell in love with these sisters, you get to be in connection. So reach out, be in connection, particularly if you know that this is something that's been calling you forward, like, oh, I need to open my
Mm,
heart. I really do need to step in the sisterhood in a different, more conscious and intentional way. I guarantee you, any sister we've had on in this series would be so open hearted to have those discussions in some kind of way with you. So reach
slide
out,
in the DM. Slide in the DM.
slide in the
We'll,
DM.
we'll see you all next week. Bye
Love
for now.
you.